Welcome back to Book of Dawn, Ioth Academy, tormented by gnomes. Once again, your host and dungeon master, joined by Crowan, Leg Day, and Lemon Kiwi. Anacra had to dip out. She will be back with us next time. When we last left our heroes, Garnet had passed out in the middle of numerology. The gnome teacher didn't seem to take it personally.
Alex, is Garnet asleep?
Looks like it. That's a bit
I don't think I've
uncharacteristic.
Ever seen this happen before? Can you draw?
I
Just
mean,
capture the moment, like on the back of the map.
oh, you want me to? Well, drawing people, I'm not. I mean, I'll try.
Roll for drawing. Go.
Roll a unproficient dexterity check.
Okay.
Is it about hand-eye? Like, any artist in the chat, should it be dexterity? Should it be wisdom? Should it be strength? Sheer muscle
Strength.
for creative
Just
power?
crush a crayon until its little bits flop down on paper.
And to
That'll
exactly
do.
match. I'll take dexterity for the time being, but I know it's more. Yeah, dexterity or
Okay.
wisdom. Either of those.
Alright. Same modifier, either one. Let's
Dexterity.
go Dexterity.
Just a flat dexterity check. All right.
11.
Perfectly average. It's identifiably Garnet. We'll put it that far.
Sure.
Okay. She'll
Yeah, is
probably be
this-
mad if we don't wake her up, right?
Probably. Unless say, oh, I didn't notice.
I don't think that's gonna fly. It
Probably
gestures
not.
around to the room. Who gnomes, I believe, said we're all looking at Garnet.
Yeah. You're right.
Yep. Okay. Athalor's going to get up and move over to, I assume Garnet's desk is fairly close, and put the armored hand on her shoulder and just be like, Garnet.
She's
Garnet.
surprisingly difficult to rouse.
Hmm.
Is she visibly breathing?
Yes.
Okay, so no big worries there.
Not dead.
I should have made you roll a medicine check. The moment has passed, however. So, yeah, visibly breathing, very asleep.
Garnet. Just like shake her a little bit more. Garnet.
Garnet, roll a wisdom saving throw, please. This will be a flat check.
Oh.
Another 12. It wasn't good enough last time. It's not good enough this time. What does Garnet mutter in her sleep as
Fuck
she's
off.
shaken?
Fight me.
Athol looks down at like the armored gauntlet that's on her, like. Okay.
Cryus is giving you a death glare from several desks over.
Athalor sort of like, do you want to come and wake the princess?
Message spell. She's been enchanted.
I get to is that to me?
Yes, you can reply.
I get to reply, right? Any ideas on dispelling it?
A kiss.
He looks at you and his face goes chalky. And he takes a moment. Water.
Athalor with his view, like. Athalor just sort of like with the water usually got spinning, he sort of like just runs it across the back of Garnet's neck and then slings it back. Athalor like visibly looks like a little bit nervous and cries.
Alex gives a thumbs up.
Okay, I'm totally blaming you guys for this. And it just sort of like whips it around so it just goes across their face and
Okay.
then back into it.
First off, roll a stealth check, please.
Yep. Is this one also disadvantaged? I've not been keeping track of how many I have.
You do have one for the fuckboy question. I
I
couldn't
believe
tell you.
that was asking if the bathrooms are unisex, so chat's just weird.
Oh. Yeah, I mean,
That
it's
makes
a logical question. But a disadvantage is a disadvantage.
A disadvantage is a disadvantage, regardless of how misguided it is. Here comes the stealth, baby. Guess who's not proficient? It's me. Oh, that's 3.
A 3.
Hmm.
All right.
Get caught.
So you successfully splash Garnet in the face. Garnet, you wake up to being splashed in the face. And Athalor is standing right next to you.
I look at him and look at the teacher like, what? Do I know I've been enchanted at this point or no?
Mm-mm. I mean, you can put 2 and 2 together if you so choose, but you're not conscious of having been enchanted. You were conscious of becoming incredibly sleepy.
You were very, very asleep.
Young man, if you're done, back to your chair, please.
So am
Yeah.
I like my whole head is like soaking wet, or am I just like a little?
Now, we've established he can do the waterbender thing where he like pulls the water back to leave
okay.
leave everything dry.
Yes, Miss Ronald. And back he goes. Sort of sits down like,
Send a message to Athalor. Really? With fucking water?
you wouldn't believe how much I was shaking you. You were just, Christ said you were enchanted.
It sounded like the song from the gala.
What, the panpipes thing? The flutes?
Yeah, I was just hearing music and I closed the window thinking someone was just being rude. And then I was asleep.
Well, at least it didn't make you destroy Pillar, so I guess bright
You didn't
side?
hear it?
Not this time, thankfully.
Those ears for anyway. All right, well, don't use water next time. My
Well,
hair
yeah,
is literally ruined.
Next time I'll just let you sleep through the entire lecture, okay?
Oh, right. Can I get your notes on that last 5 minutes? How long was
I've
I
been
up for?
trying to wake you up. Christ is the best bet.
Always send a message to Cries. Sorry, can I get your notes? I dozed off.
Yes, absolutely. Do you see anything out the window?
I look.
You see down on one of the nearby, because this whole hall is built on multiple rock formations emerging from a pond, from a lake, right? On the other side of one of the rock formations, standing above the rippling water, you see Inril Untermaler stuffing a satyr into a bag. He's got-
Satyr?
Yeah, like a fawn, like a goat dude with goat legs and horns, and he's clutching panpipes. And Untermaler has grabbed him by his legs, holding him upside down, and stuffing him into a bag. He looks
Message
directly
Athalor.
up at the
Oh, sorry.
window for a moment. You're not sure if he sees you or not. It feels like he makes eye contact. Surely he can't see you at this distance through the glass. And then
That's for
he
you to decide. I don't know.
teleports out.
I message Athalor. The culprit has been apprehended.
The Minotaur?
Useful at something. Could have got it before I missed the part about what did Tana say about? And I ask him some question about the lecture.
Cries, I'll cover it afterwards.
Oh, okay, thanks.
All right. And you sit through the rest of the lecture without incident. We have had a third act of God. I would like all three of you to roll 1d20, please.
Oh boy.
Or we can just have this one go directly to Athalor because he hasn't been hit yet.
Oh!
Well, he got a 20.
Okay. All right.
Then that 20 is here.
Well, you see, this one is not negative or positive. It's dependent.
Hmm.
You got a child? You got a dependent?
No. Though he knows it not, the influence of Uruk, the Titan of Gold, is upon him. And what befalls this will depend on Athalor's actions. All right. You get out of that class, and these classes are fairly intense, so I don't think that they would be held. I don't think you'd have all 4 classes every single day. I think you'd probably do a rotation of 3 classes, like 3-2, 3-2, something like that. So you only have 2 to 3 classes a day. They tend to be a little bit longer. You get multiple breaks, and you have time for various sundry extracurricular activities as well, plus all the homework. You know, the homework is really intense. And with all these distractions, everything just takes so much longer to get anything done.
Behold, an act of God.
You're gonna die!
Oh boy.
Here we go again. More Fae? Oh.
The Knights of Terra Nimbus.
We're
How
gonna
the
need a lot
hell?
of bags.
How the hell are the Knights of Terra Nimbus going to factor into this? Crikey.
Right over the top of a dome. Everyone's gonna hear like it's just like a
Let me in.
centurion's worth of stallions rise up over the top of a dome. It's like,
Cheers,
what the
love.
This is weird ass weather.
The cavalry is here.
Okay. All right. No, we can work
Riding
with
classes. Let's go.
We can work with this. We can work with this. All right. Okay. Let's move on to the next class. And I will work the Knights of Terra Nimbus into this freaking story somehow.
Congratulations, chat. You've activated hard mode for the DM. I'm very
Round of
proud of
applause.
you.
Fun.
All right. Your next class is World Studies, taught by Bethrina, who's a Huldra wood elf from the Fomhor Woods, the Autumn Court of the Huldra. Now, your other 3 classes are highly theoretical, highly complex, but World Studies is almost like a history course. This is the class that is going to deal the most with what is actually going on in the outside world. It's not like you're covering recent events. You're not getting battle reports from the dragon tribes protecting their lands against the Iron Empire, or the latest ravages of the Ravener bands tearing across the land. But effectively, your electives can let you learn about one of the other 4 kingdoms. One of the 4 kingdoms. This is about the mortal world and its history, its geography. It's like a social studies course, I think is the best way to think about it. So Bethrina starts the class by introducing herself. She wears the white robes of a teacher, of an instructor at the academy. She has almost orange-red hair and has a beautifully preserved long red leaf tied in that hair. And she presents you with a map of the local area. You can see the dragon tribes mostly to the east and a little bit to the south. The various priest kingdoms occupying the territory to the west. The wide deserts far to the south. And if you go to the north, mountainous territories, and eventually the wide steppes that will someday become Iman Karak.
Would it be recognizable enough for us that with what we saw of the smoke plumes of a Ravener's battle, we'd be able to be like, it was around there?
Yes. The Raveners came from the southern deserts this time. It's difficult to say where the Raveners go because they don't have a restricted territory, and a band of Raveners can pop up almost anywhere. But it's not like they can just literally appear, but a Ravener band is almost a supernatural phenomenon.
Yeah, just like mass corrupted individuals from another society. It would seem.
But you can tell it looked like this one came from the south. There are not a lot of nearby powerful cultures to the south. There's a lot of wild territory, difficult arid desert where it's a lot harder to live far to the south. If you go far enough, eventually you hit the coastal hills and cliffs The Stone Abbey is down there. The Paravan live down there. You've got the Chaparral nomadic folk living all along the coastlines to the west. A lot of the hill folk live in the hills and steppes to the west as well. So you're getting this layout, and someday I'll provide an actual map. It's on the list. But she also takes this opportunity to introduce herself and where she's from. The Autumn Woods lie fairly far to the north, and it's one of 4 Huldra lands. It's the only Huldra land that isn't inside the Connacht Vale. It's just over the mountains to the southwest. And she describes the beautiful cities that they dwell in and the magical enchantments that protect them from the demonic Imperiums. You're going to hear more in this class about the demonic Imperiums than you have in any of your other classes so far. Almost all of your courses have focused on magic. What's going on here? What's going on inside our bubble? So for a lot of people, this is a difficult course, especially people who come from the outside who had struggles and difficulty in a hard life on the outside or don't want to think about it. Bethrina doesn't dwell on the depredations of the Infernals. This isn't a class about atrocities. It's more like, hey, you've been here for a while. Let's actually get you some world education going on. And after your other incredibly intensive courses, this one is almost a breath of fresh air. Unless, of course, the idea of the outside world is traumatizing. How does everyone take to this one? And aside from, like, where do those Raveners come from, is there anything else in particular that people are trying to focus on?
Suffice to say, this is Athalor shit.
Mm-hmm.
Numerology, not so much, but this one, Athalor loves a bit of history.
Cool.
Probably Garnet interested in or probably just probably knows the Infernal stuff. I
Mhm.
feel like she's covered so much of it. I don't know if
Yeah.
there'd be anything new being taught in that case.
A lot of what you learn about is the more esoteric stuff, the actual Infernals themselves and their ancient history. This is more, you would have picked up bits and pieces about the cultures that they've raised up around themselves or bound to their will, but mostly you would have learned about them and their magic, that kind of high level stuff. This is more ground level. What lands do they occupy? What are, their history of conflict with the others? What's their pattern of expansion? And it doesn't dwell on the demonic Imperiums, but it's part of what's going on in the outside world, so it has to be covered.
Are there any designer cities close enough to be on our local map?
When I eventually make a map, yes, there is one designer city. It is closer to the south, kind of in the middle of the desert, built on a set of springs, naturally occurring springs. They've got drills that go down into the wells, and the desert provides a natural barrier for them to protect them from outsiders.
All
There's
right,
a
there you
few
go,
others that
community
are
NPCs. That
Well,
one's for you.
Yeah, that's where any other most folks who have a background with the designers would come from those areas, from that particular city. And it's difficult to escape from because there's no water for miles and miles. But the Dune Riders know secret oases and ways through the desert, so they tend to inhabit those areas as well.
I think for Alex, he's decently interested in this course because the rest of the world who isn't really known to him much, just knows his little refugee camp. So kind of the thought of finding out about other places to then determine where eventually his place in the world is going to be is intriguing. And he also would at some point ask a question to the professor and would ask there's I guess Alex would phrase it, Professor, there's this history about the other places in the world and kind of what came to be, but is this just all accepted as fact? Are there any conflicting opinions about anything, even if it's not a popular opinion?
Well, of course. History is nothing more than a collection of folklore. Some of it's written down and tested, some of it's just passed down hand over hand. What I will present in this class is the best available information, but there's always a possibility of new information coming to light. Do keep in mind, student, that we have the privilege of access to magic, which goes a long way towards clearing up any inconsistencies.
Do you personally believe that anything that you teach perhaps is incorrect or
Certainly, some of it will be proven wrong. I wouldn't teach you something that I don't personally believe myself, but new information can always come to light. Why?
I mean, I think too often people perhaps just accept what the victors have wrote.
Well, I hope that in your time here you have learned better. She says that with a
Of course.
smile, not with a stern look.
Of course.
Which victors?
The ones who now occupy the lands. Surely they are there because others aren't. Could
They're
say
there
anything.
because, by sheer force of strength, nothing more.
And with that strength, some stories are told and others aren't. It's the
Yes.
truth that you seek, right?
Always. Do you smell lies?
Trying to learn how to smell them.
Good.
All right.
Was there does this class cover like politics too, or is it just mainly like geography stuff?
It will. It's a high level course. It's not going to go into, and I don't mean high level as in like very, very difficult, challenging. I mean as in a bird's eye view. It's not going to get super, super in depth into any particular nation's politics. It is going to cover the fact that the priest kingdoms are the city states. Each one is dedicated usually to one of the titans, and their reliance on those titans is what has kept them independent of infernal rule. Most of them are very tightly ruled theocracies whose citizens have a large number of rules they have to follow in order to prevent infernal influence and maintain the goodwill of whatever patron deity they adhere to.
I don't know if this will be covered, but
Mhm.
eventually, if there's ever anything about Brontha, because if there's any recent history, just she
Mhm.
might kind of be extra attentive just to learn what's been going on. If that gets covered, that to that specificity.
It
So yeah,
will be, but probably not until the second half of the school year.
gotcha.
Bethrina, do all of these independent states beyond the infernal dominions maintain diplomatic ties with the Academy?
To an extent, I think it's more accurate to say that the Academy maintains diplomatic ties with them. Our ability to cross the boundaries of the mortal world means we can reach them when they often cannot reach us. The Academy strives to keep tabs on, keep an open door to the various peoples of the world because from thence come our next generations of students. But we don't
Do
like
they
to
offer them
interfere
to
in their
us, or do
business.
we take them?
Sorry, what?
Do the states offer them, or do we simply go in and give sort of independent offers to the children?
In most cases, and everybody here's story will vary, in most cases, when we find someone with potential who would make a good student at the academy, we speak with their parents and we speak with the potential student and offer them a place at Ioth Academy. And if the parents accept and if the child accepts, then they join us. There are occasional exceptions made for extenuating circumstances. For example, students who hail from one of the infernally dominated cultures may not always be in a position to make such a decision of their own free will, or the parents may not be in a position to accept that offer, in which case the offer would be made independently to them. There have been cases where parents were abusive or cruel or unkind to their children, in which case we made independent offers to the child directly. Does that answer your question, Alfar?
It does, thank you. Has the taking of a child ever caused a diplomatic incident between the Academy and one of these city-states?
Not often. When the potential for such exists, we handle things very carefully. It is a matter of our security. Inril Untermaler often handles those deft negotiations, and he's very good at smoothing things out. In the event that he is not able to, either the child will be left where they are, or the providing culture will not be aware of the circumstances of the departure. But that would only be reserved for extreme circumstances. Life and death matters.
Thank you.
Of course. And she goes back to teaching. Any other questions on this particular period of time? Again, they'll go into more detail about other parts of the world as time goes on. All right. After that, you're able to move on to your individual electives. Alexander, remind me what elective course you were taking.
Underworld studies, I believe.
Were all
Yes,
three of you
Underworld.
taking Underworld studies?
I am.
I think Arianna took Otherworld.
Arianna is not here. Did Athalor take Underworld studies?
No, I am in real Intermauler with the history and tactics of battle and warfare.
All right.
Bit of a mouthful.
It is.
He's
There's
not
2
good with praise.
ampersands in the title. That's a lot. All right. The Underworld Studies class is held in the dungeons. As makes
Perfect.
sense. And your teacher is Nasima. She is an air genasi, someone born with the elemental power of air. She doesn't talk about her heritage, but on the very first day, and she has short hair. That's she's got light pale sky blue skin, bluish white hair. It's very short and it kind of floats above her head as if she's falling constantly.
Oh, hey, that's...
Yeah, leg day, but in like a hair commercial, you know, with
I'm your Venus.
the rest of her clothes sit normally. It's just the hair that does that. And when you walk in, there is a diagram on the chalkboard. And it shows the 4 kingdoms. The firmament is a circle around, I would have drawn this earlier if I hadn't just thought of it. There's a circle around the entire thing, that's the firmament. And then a layer around that, that's the sky kingdom. And then 2 sort of overlapping half circles for the mortal world and the other world. And at their very core is the underworld. And as soon as everybody gets in, she just launches right into it. She's not much one for introductions. She introduces herself. My name is Nasima. This is Underworld Studies. And then she turns to the board and starts drawing on it. What you must understand about the Underworld, it is the beating heart of the 4 kingdoms. It is the circulatory center. It is vital. It is essential. The wellspring from which all is drawn, the root upon which all depends. It is the anchor for our entire reality. Everything that is arose within the underworld. Everything that dies returns to the underworld. The churning engine that drives all of this around you. The elements well up from within. Squiggle, squiggle. She draws them like a fountain percolating out through the other world and the mortal world, rising up to the sky kingdom, almost bouncing off the firmament and then returning back. Life emits upwards, death returns. Creation emits upwards, destruction, it returns. When you think about the underworld, You do not think of it as a place of the dead or of death. It is the center upon which all else depends. Does that make sense? All right. And she starts going into the various parts of the underworld, starting with the core of everything, the Wellspring. It is not a place that most mortals will ever go because it is where the elements are in their most pure, essential form. Difficult for us even to comprehend because everything around us is composed of the elements mixed together. Even when we see fire or a fresh breeze or ocean water, it's always intermingled with its compatriots. The elements are not at odds with each other. They are essential and necessary for each other. But in the Wellsprings, they are divided into their pure essence in an almost abstract way that we can barely comprehend. It is only when they rise up from the Wellspring, almost to form the mortal world around us, that they become comprehensible. And she starts, drawing out diagrams and doing all this stuff and talking about the life cycle and how it's, dead. Death is a form of decay. Decaying energy and matter goes back into the underworld. And so your first day of class is not like, here's the topography and here's how to get there and here's who lives there. It's how it fits into reality. And she very much wants to start from this big picture. What is its function? What does it do? How does it do that? And you get the impression that eventually you'll learn, how do you get there? How do you call things from it? Who lives there? What's it like to be there? And all that stuff. But she wants to focus on the big picture stuff first. And it's going to take you a while before you get to the point where you're going to be into that nitty gritty. As she's launching into all of these different descriptions and stuff, and as this class goes on, is there anything specific that Alexander or Garnet would want to know about it or ask about it, or are they mostly content to sit and absorb until they get to the good parts?
Yeah, I think probably just that. Probably sit and absorb until it gets to the specifics, and then inevitably questions will arise there, but nothing for now.
You should ask a question after class.
Okay. Everyone's grabbing all their bags and books and heading off to wherever they are next, and Nasima is cleaning up with wind magic, got multiple erasers on the chalkboard, blowing around in a small cloud of dust.
Oh yeah, covering her face a bit, just with all the dust. And Professor Nasima, do you have a second?
Yes.
Pulls out the project from about the etiology project, I think, or it's dawn magic, souls from the underworld, and kind of a surface level, I guess, report on it. Kind of hands it to her. I wrote a report in my last year about a bit of the underworld and connection between souls, and if we can maybe one day use dawn magic to make a connection with them. Do you think we'll dive more into something like this? I thought maybe you could read it if you're interested.
Takes a look, kind of pages through it quickly, speed reading the first sentence of every paragraph just to get an immediate read on everything. Oh, I'm not much one for piety myself, but traditionally, reconstitution of souls is in the realm of the gods. It's a function primarily of divine magic. If anything was to do that, it would be dawn magic, but the person wielding that magic would have to have an incredibly specific and well-formed idea of who it was that they wanted to reconstitute. It'd be like, let's say without magic, you hurled a glass against a wall, mixed it in with broken pieces of glass from 1,000 other glasses, and poured it all into a giant pile. Without magic, there's no way for you to put all those pieces back together. And a soul is about 1,000,000 times more complicated than that. So the person doing it, you'd have to re-envision this person with your own will, with your own mind. It's dawn magic. I'm not going to say it's impossible.
Well, that seems really interesting. Do You said there was a field trip for this class. Could we? You said mortals don't usually go there, but would we be able to go there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the end of all of this.
Are we meeting? Are we going to see souls that are in the underworld there?
No, they don't linger. Roll an insight check. 16. Nasima has forgotten your name. Doesn't know your name yet.
Sorry, Garnet.
Garnet. Yes, thank you. Also, Nasima seems to have completely missed the fact that it was written on the front page of the paper, which she's leafing through right now. Her voice takes on a slight note of tenderness here. Just a little bit. No, they don't linger. Not for long. When a person dies, they go to the Wellspring and they become one with the world. All that they were, all that they are is reconstituted to make room for new life. Souls don't usually, and that's why resurrection is so difficult. They're not waiting for us there. They're rejoining the cycle, re-entering. She points at the half erased, the chalk marker is so going back and forth. They lay down all their burdens and all their sorrows and divide into 1,000 threads which are woven back into the tapestry of life. They don't linger in that form. And that's why resurrection is particularly difficult, because you'd have to either go back and pull all those threads back together, or get new threads and make something that looks exactly like the original.
But you said it's not impossible?
Not impossible, just very difficult.
Probably size and... Okay, kind of takes back her paper. Looking forward to the class. Bye. Heads out.
Wearing what sort of expression as she departs?
Just probably disappointed by the answer.
Yeah. Nasima shrugs and goes back to lesson planning. All right. Meanwhile, in a different lecture hall, Athalor, you notice many familiar faces in this classroom. Lots of Codex people, lots of people you've grown up around for the last several years. You also notice that the classroom is not super suited for this. There's a couple of extra desks stuffed in here. It doesn't seem like this classroom normally gets used for this course. And there's a lot of excitement in the air. Where does Athalor sit in this class?
Considering that Athalor doesn't have many of his primary friendship group around, he'd probably be pretty close to the front.
Okay.
/ at the front.
All right. Several artificer gang sitting in the back, along with a couple of other students who are their friends. Ned is super excited for this one. It's and Untermaler doesn't arrive until like 2 minutes before class. Has to duck to get through the doorway. The rings driven through his horns jingle as he takes each step forward. The floor shakes at his passage. As he makes his way up to the podium, there's a map of the world on the wall behind him. He keeps an eye on the hourglass as it turns, steeples his enormous hands together, then folds his hands behind his back.
The purpose of magic and its unity
in war and conflict has been a part of its history ever since war and conflict made their way to this world from the outside. We will study that history, the applications of conventional and war magic at both the tactical and strategic level, the great battles of history and how they hinged upon the correct employment of war magic, and the ramifications for an era rife with conflict. I should point out now, this class is not a prerequisite for enrollment in the Tower of War, should any of you choose to continue your studies after donning your violet robes and receiving the title of mage. This class is not mandatory for that pursuit, but I hope that after completing it, you will consider continued education in the Tower of War. The arcane arts have no higher purpose than to protect and preserve those who cannot do the same for themselves.
He surveys the entire area, then rolls up the maps.
It is no secret that the first historical conflict of our world, in which magic was deployed on a large scale, was the fall of Luminius and the first infernal incursion. That battle is beyond the precepts of this course. Magic at the time was unimaginably different. It was not bound by the laws of arcane formula and spell matrices under which we currently operate. It was free and wild. And while we may study bits and pieces of that ancient conflict, very little of it will apply to the modern form. We will therefore look thoroughly in this class at the war tactics of the sorcerers of Okarthal, the 10 dragon tribes, the Alfar refuge of Underworld.
He looks directly at you, Athalor, at that.
Athalor somewhat just bows his head a little bit.
The camouflage spells of the Holdra, and the Iron Empire's use of Imperial battle mages. There will be, of course, other applications and other battles during this course, and we will cover the very basic principles of Ioth Academy's applications of war magic. But in order to understand the present, we must first understand the past.
And he launches into it from there. He doesn't really stop for questions until the very end. But one of the first things that he does is he talks about how magic can completely change a battlefield. He's not talking about individual spell duels between wizards. He's not talking about adventurers delving in to ruins and battling dragons and the like. He's talking about how magic influences the way wars are fought. And while the flashiest applications of that are war magic, battle magic, where multiple wizards or spellcasters combine and use external power sources, not just to cast fireball at that phalanx over there, but to wreak firestorms across the entire battlefield. Just enormous, applications of war magic. But Untermaler is quick to point out, that is how battles are won. It is not how wars are won. Wars are won through morale and logistics. And the proper application of magic can completely transform an army's supply line, chain of communication, and information. as the course continues, and there's too much for us to cover, this is a 3-hour show, and his class is probably 3 hours with a break at the 90-minute mark. But one of the things that he covers is how divination magic can be used to predict the future, to spy on people from afar, to determine what is and is not true, to find missing objects, and all sorts of things like that. And how in war, information and when your average non-magical army has to rely on horse messengers or bird messengers at best, an army that does have access to magic and can have instant communication and instant recon is going to have the advantage every single time. And what follows is an occasional treatise on how individual cultures handle things. For example, amongst the dragon tribes, he's the first one to say that the dragon tribes are 10 subcultures, each with their own heritage, some things in common. Take Vudazon, for example, the blue dragon tribe. They're one of our closest neighbors to the east in the desert territories. Very organized. Each suzerain who controls their area knows exactly where they stand in relation of power to the others. And the suzerain who's in charge of the entire region is the one who's going to decree how many sorcerers they have to send in to help, and is going to train those sorcerers to follow the same procedures, to identify the same magical signals in the sky, to react accordingly. So they use not just lightning magic to fry the crap out of people, but they use magic to quickly outmaneuver their enemies and to react to enemy threats. Amongst the Trier dragon tribe, the red dragon tribe who dwell up in the mountains, they tend to emphasize less training and unity amongst their various sorcerers and more individual displays of power. They use that as a threat, as a force projection. This one sorcerer is so strong. It's not like, oh, the Vudazon sorcerers, they wear this robe and this armor and this hat so they can all work in conjunction. Whereas the Trier dragon sorcerers, each dragon sorcerer sort of creates their own identity, their own unique heraldry, their own symbol, their own magical signature, so that when they show up, everyone says, oh my god, it's that sorcerer, we are going to die. And every single dragon tribe uses magic in these different ways. Like I said, the lesson goes on and on and on and on and on. I'm not going to be able to go through all of it. But Inril as an instructor is methodical and patient and thorough. And every lesson is gathered around one particular theme. And he often combines it with a story. Every single lesson is wrapped around a single story. And he's not a great... he doesn't tell you stories in a way that sort of like makes you cling on to every word and makes you follow the emotional arc. But his stories always have a direct line to, and that's why communication is important. And that's why you shouldn't rely too much on this particular spell. And that's why sometimes a fireball to the face is the right answer. And that's essentially how the course goes. How does Athalor take to this?
I think Athalor is very much into this, knowing the history of his family. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a touch of paranoia in Athalor at the moment after seeing that Ravener band, that one day potentially, especially like typical teenage self-doubt, if one day he's responsible for Vijaya, one day that could fail, come to the mortal realm, and then it might be that they need to fight instead. Mm-hmm. So Athalor is very much in tune with like, this, I don't think it's going to need to be used, but my people live a very long time, and I'd rather know than not.
All right. Well, there's one way that we can incorporate this act of God immediately. Chat actually gave me a good idea on this. We'll probably have to do a little bit more. But there is a day where the lesson takes an abrupt turn, because the map that he pulls up is liquid. It's literally filled with water, with little floating clouds on top of it. It's a map of the Sky Kingdom. Combat in the Sky Kingdom, large-scale tactical combat in the Sky Kingdom, has always been complicated by the amorphous nature of that realm, with each cloud bank existing on its own, moving. Imagine if all the world was floating islands that drifted past each other, carried on vast currents. Warfare as we know it would be impossible. Only small-scale raids, brief exchanges when everything was lined up correctly would work. Such it is in the Sky Kingdom, where a war has been raging ever since the death of the Sovereign of Stone. Mortified by his sister's death, the Sovereign of the Skies realized his own mortality and decided that the only response was to ensure absolute control over a limited territory, keeping all Infernals and potential security threats out. So, the Sovereign of the Skies began his conquest. He transformed his flying citadel, his garden palace, into a stronghold, a towering edifice from which he could hurl lightning bolts at the world above and the world below. It is called Terra Nimbus. It is over 1 mile in height, of similar scale to this golden sphere in which we live, and armed with the firepower of a god. His storm giants dwell within, forging lightning bolts, and the most recent addition to his army is his recruitment of mortals, the Knights of Terra Nimbus. Vindor's chief targets in his conquest of the sky are the Aurai Sky Elves. Garnet's not in this class, but Ike now is a Sky Elf, an Aurai. And the Aarakocra, bird people, who live in small, isolated communities, nomadic by very nature of their homes, drifting throughout the Sky Kingdom, eking out existences for themselves. The Sovereign of the Skies demands complete and total submission and obedience, which is not at all in the nature of those people. To bring them to heel, he has not only his favored children, the Storm Giants, the Cloud Giants, no longer the Fire Giants, as he has casted them out of the Sky Kingdom. And in order to replace them, he has taken to abducting mortals from the world below. Using his floating fortresses, he rains down devastating storms on the world below, collects the survivors, and raises them as warriors. He equips them in sky steel with swords and armor of the same, and thus clad, they are able to fly, carried by the winds themselves. They require no steeds. Their blades are imbued with thunder and lightning. They are his elite shock forces, leading the charge, fanatically loyal only to him. And because they have no affinity or connection to the world above, they are his most effective soldiers. While there are Aurai and Aarakocra he has pressed into his service and subordinated in his gradual conquest, they remain defiant. Freedom is in the very essence of the people of the sky. So he brings up mortals to do his bidding instead. They also make ideal servants if he needs to enact his justice on the world below. We bore witness to his might not long ago. You're old enough now. You may remember when the Raveners drew close to our lands. We did not fight alone in that battle. The Sovereign of the Skies sent the Knights of Terra Nimbus and rained down thunder from his stronghold. For while he is perhaps a touch paranoid and controlling, he is no friend of the Infernals and their ilk. The lesson continues. I'm not going to, again, do the entire thing. There's your lore. They've actually already showed up, and that time that all those storms were happening, it was because Vindor was smiting fools.
Master
It's
Untitled.
smited. It's smoit.
Does Ioth Academy have some kind of alliance with Vindor, or was that simply aligned interests?
Athalor, roll 1d100, please.
Bam. How in trouble am I? 53.
53. All right.
Absolutely average.
Do not Name the sovereigns lightly in this class, Athalor. They might hear us.
Are they not friends then?
They are not to be trifled with. The Academy has no official allegiance or connection with the Sovereign of the Skies. Merely common security threats. Frankly, it was a coincidence that he happened to be in the area. And we are fortunate that it did not cause collateral damage to those who live in our shadow.
Understood.
All right, I did. Inreal did say his name at one point, which he wouldn't have done, but I rolled anyways just in case, and no, we were not heard. All right. So as time rolls on and you launch into your new batch of courses, how is everybody taking, let's just do like a temperature check. How is everyone doing with the new course load? Alexander, you don't need to roll for this, but like, how does picking up the course load work? And what extracurriculars are you focusing on?
I would say whenever Alex isn't focusing on, classwork, homework, which a lot of the time he's doing codex stuff for the rest of the time. So that's kind of where like 90% of his time is. In terms of the classes, he is trying, obviously trying to keep up his grades. He's really actually interested in a couple of them, particularly spell matrices, world studies, and underworld studies. The other ones are kind of just like, they're not particularly interesting, but he's still going to try to, not only get by, but get by, decently well on them. But yeah, that's kind of where he's at. I would say he's still putting a lot of effort into these courses and into school in general.
And what kind of codex stuff is he doing? I know you're organizing the tournament, which is
Yeah.
going to happen after this episode. And Hennon's got flyers going out for that, so on and so forth. What other sort of codex stuff is Alexander working on?
Alex would still be, there's a few new members of the codex, so he'd be, checking in with them, still kind of like most regularly kind of just checks up on everything in the codex, wants to hear if people have any, suggestions, they want, this thing, that thing. He's heard of recently people want to start up battle bots, and he's like being like, okay, how can I do this? How can I get this happening?
So is he moving
he's-
forward? Has he approved that? And is he moving forward with that?
Yeah, so at this point Alex would be trying to make this work. So maybe like a week or two into classes once he gets a better idea of, because he wants to get a professor's approval. So he'd actually probably go to the numerology professor, Professor Raldor, and we'll first off see if she's interested in being a sort of advisor for the codex.
Okay. Aside, I'll let you do a persuasion roll on this. Is there
Okay.
anything you want to throw at this first, just in terms of your approach, so on and so forth?
Yeah, he would how would he do this? Alex probably after class at one point would say, Professor Rauno, might I speak with you for a moment?
Absolutely, I have time.
Wonderful. You might have heard, I'm part of the founding members of the Codex. It is a prestigious group of academic students who truly do wish to excel here at Ioth Academy and uphold all of its values. And I think it is at least partly somewhat customary for perhaps professors to advise over any groups like this that may form. And while we've been doing all right on our own, we maybe perhaps need a bit of bit of guidance. I think you would be perfect to assist us if you would be interested in. I've think you're a fantastic professor, and I've learned a lot from your class. And I think that with your guidance, the Codex could also learn a lot.
All right. Roll a persuasion check.
All right. A 13, but I think there's an advantage laying around there.
Yeah, we've got one. We've got one here.
All right.
Let's
So I'll use them for that one.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh,
It's not great.
Aw.
Still a
13 will have to
13.
do, baby.
Honors class? Honor Society? Perfect. Delightful. No, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Sign me up. Where do I sign?
Oh, I don't have anything to sign right now, but if you want that, we could draft something up, and that would
Yep.
be
Paperwork, complete roster, bylaws, code of conduct.
mhm.
Social security numbers.
Yeah, we can get all of that for you. I'll have that after next class, and also if you're interested in that, then my following question is some of the members of the Codex would like to battle with their mechanical constructs, called a bit of a BattleBots League.
The
Now,
Constructs Coliseum. That's been revoked for years and years and years and years and years and years.
yeah, that's kind of the point, though. Years and years and years, and it seems like, at least under proper guidance, it could be reinstated, seeing as there's an interest in it, and obviously there's no malicious intent behind it. I mean, personally, I rather think that was interesting to think that there wasn't in the first place, but then neither here nor there. There's just genuine interest, and obviously with magic, having the creations and seeing, whose is better than whose and how they can improve on them, and there's just a lot of I think opportunity there.
Roll an insight check, please.
Okay. 19.
There's a gleam
Ah.
in her eye. Somewhere, an intensity that is normally scattered all over the many beads that she wears across her outfit and all over her chalkboards and calculations. Suddenly, an inherent focus directly to the front.
Yep, that's a gnome artificer.
Do you know how many times I've submitted an argument and a paperwork and a friend of the court briefing, an amicus brief, to reestablish the Construct Coliseum, but now it's coming from a student perspective. How many do you have involved so far?
That is a good question. I know there's general interest for at least probably 4 or 5. I can get a more accurate
Separate paperwork, bylaws, code of conduct, safety policies, and complete roster. Get it on my desk as soon as possible. The Asserts in Commission has been reapplying for this for so long. We're going to make this happen, finally.
I didn't know you were so passionate about this. I thank you. I will have all this paperwork. I will get you the needs, the wants, desires of everyone in the Codex who wants to be a part of this, and yeah, we can make this happen.
Good, excellent. They won't be able to stop us this time.
Yeah, they sure won't. We'll get them. I'll see you next class.
All right. As you're going, she moves. You notice that one of the tassels covered with beads is dangling almost all the way down to her feet. And she adjusts another bead on that one. It's very heavy. It's got dozens of beads on it already.
All right. Nice.
And she starts digging through her file, reasons to revive the Construct Coliseum, alphabetized. And she dusts it off. And
Would
Alright.
Alex have told us he was trying to find a mentor for the Codex?
Yeah. They would have.
How did it go?
That better than I expected, to be honest. Seemed rather enthused, overly enthused, I might say. At least about the Construct Coliseum. And obviously just the Codex too, I think, actually. Seemed rather enthused to be a part of it all. I've actually been trying to get the Construct Coliseum approved for, I don't know how long actually, but a long time it seems.
Well, from what vagaries I know of gnomes, they seem to be a very industrious people. I imagine that they have quite a bit of interest in that inherent artificer competition. I guess you should tell them the good news and the paperwork load that you're probably going to offshed.
Yes, the paper. I'm definitely delegating some of that to the artificers. Well, see how it goes. It's I mean, honestly, we already have a more or less the just code of conduct, everything of the codex proper. Just getting it all down, the roster, everything for her to submit. It should be doable. Do you have any suggestions for any of this, or?
No, not really. This is I still don't know exactly what you want from this, Alex, but I'm sure we'll find out.
What do you mean?
Well, the codex in general.
Have you not benefited from the codex, Athalor?
I suppose I have, but there's a lot more that comes from, I don't know, the motivation to generate it than to have benefited it from it, just like I have. And we can't forget the circumstances. Athalor looks over to Garnet, in which you managed to have this generated.
I admit it was partly opportunistic of me to utilize the situation to get the codex underway. It would have been done regardless. It just made it a bit easier, I suppose. Athalor, you come from something. You know, if you were never here at the academy, your life would have goals, would have meaning, would have whatever you or your family would want it to be, correct?
Likely so. I likely would have learned magic nonetheless back at Underworld.
It's a bit of a different situation for me. And being a part of, in charge of, whatever you want to say about the codex, it's makes me feel like I'm working for something with a purpose, I suppose. Gives me that sort of feeling that I didn't already have.
Well, if the codex ends up not being where you want to belong, I could always see if there's space for you at the refuge.
Belong, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know where this will go, but it's a good start, and we'll see. Thank you.
Garnet, how's plotting to kill Inril Untermaler going for you?
Giving it some thought and very attentive to opportunities, but wasn't gonna be like a within 24 hour of that talk kind of thing. It was
Yeah.
like a longer term plan, but
For
right
sure.
now she's been so tuning out this conversation and just very nose diving into arcane theories and proofs and all the copying her notes 2 or 3 times over, comparing with Cryus, and just mega focused on school.
And what about her midnight training sessions down in the crypts?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask you if we picked a room yet.
It's so much easier
Probably
for me to show the
They like
stream
both
than
lie
to show
next to
you
each
guys
other
right
in
now.
two coffins.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull it up, but definitely I'm thinking one of these very little used rooms. Oh yeah, this corner room right here. I'll pull it up on if you're watching the stream. This little
Yeah.
corner room right down here in the very, very bottom.
You guys are the Berm Closet.
Oh, I have the Berm Closet. That is
look,
somewhat comfortable.
It's got like these ominous pillars or torches and this like altar. It's perfect for esoteric studies. you want to bring in some pillows or something, that's fine. It
Probably,
slowly
like-
accumulates comforts as time goes on.
Update the feng
Oh.
shui.
I'm probably like extra like focused and extra working hard.
Mhm.
A little bit not abnormal, but like I think she's gotten such a close relationship with Master L now that she might like not like talk back, but just like make jokes and be really comfortable and not take it like 100% seriously
Mhm.
because it's like extracurriculars and she's tired from class.
Yeah.
But then lately it's kind of like extra work hard. And then she goes, Master L now, I'm just barely now mastering the first circle of magic. When do I get to the other stuff?
We're going to work on that this year. I want you to dip your toes into that by the end of the year. You're asking a lot for somebody who's already created a sphere of annihilation by accident in her first year.
Yeah, can I do that again?
If you do it again, the entire school could be destroyed. We're lucky it was self-contained.
How did you get rid of it last time?
Roll an insight check, please. Let's see if you've got any disadvantage rolling around.
Oh, frick.
Yep, you have disadvantage specifically on deception checks from chat.
Ah, you bitches.
They
Can't
said
lie.
no lies in this
No
house.
lying. It's a no lie day. Okay,
Hmm.
17.
All right. Give me a persuasion check as well, actually. Just as a general gauge of 22. Oh my god. All right.
Mm.
As the resident expert, I have equipment. I knew what I was dealing with, and I had the equipment to take care of it.
Equipment? Well, that's cool. How does one go to rent equipment here?
You can't.
Do you do leasing?
You,
Yeah,
you,
is there any equipment rentals at the school? Yeah.
Is there any hurts for Sphere of Annihilation?
I mean, mages and masters have access to the vaults on a case-by-case basis.
Vaults.
Yes, where the most dangerous and powerful items are stored.
She like you could like Garnet on like gets out the wear, but then stops and like, oh, I know she won't like that. So it's just
Can we master the basics and intermediate before we get up to the weapons of magical destruction, Garnet? Is that all right?
yeah, this one keeps talking and she kind of like itches her head a little frantically. The shadow keeps talking. Can you teach me how to tell it to shut up?
Talks to you?
Yeah.
She looks over at it, and her face goes completely stone cold, and her shadow arcs out across as if in the direct sunlight, like one of those tall evening shadows to completely obscure the wall behind her. The temperature in the room drops a couple of degrees as she stares at your shadow, which wavers and just whoop, right back, exactly doing what you're doing and nothing else.
I kind of look back at the shadow now that I probably didn't notice because it's behind me, obviously. So I'm like, now I look back once it's normal, look back at her and, well, Noir is not really that intimidating. Oh, I named it Noir, by the way, because we've gotten pretty tight these days. But
Okay, there's
yeah,
your
it's just-
first
it's-
problem.
Did your shadow just get topped?
You named it,
yeah.
and you're friends with it. It's just an empty hole in the world that's the shape of you. The more of a name you imbue in it, the more meaning you imbue into it, the more it's going to have a will and a mind of its own.
It's not nothing. Don't listen. Don't listen.
You're right. It's not, because you're not treating it like nothing. And now it has a will, and now it acts up, and this is why I never had children.
You don't want kids?
No.
Oh. Right. So I just, what do I do then?
Well, you have some options. You could start treating it like you're in charge. Or you can figure something else the hell out. Come to an agreement.
Shut up! Ugh! And it kind of like flinches because they spoke back. And I'm okay. I'll work on it.
Mastery of shadow magic is. I don't need to tell you this, Garnet. The void is empty. It is alien. It is utterly devoid of what makes us mortals. And in order to grow stronger with it, you need to be able to find the parts of you that make you a person and turn them off, hide them, shut them down temporarily. That warmth, that naming, that relationship has nothing to do with the power of the void. The exact opposite. And
You sound a lot like him today. That's nice.
Mirik?
Yeah. Kind of sounded like him just now.
He wasn't wrong.
Anyway, stop with all this advice stuff. Just, what chapter are we at again?
She doesn't even bother to tell you that you're the one who asked for the advice in the first place. She just goes back to the studies.
Just let's, where we, never mind.
And you're right back to it. That night, while Athalor is working on his homework, a voice pops into his head.
The sphere. Location. Control. Information.
Have you discovered something new about it? Can you even gather information that I don't gather?
Not here. Far outside. Not locally. Require your action. Your senses.
And is there somewhere my senses are particularly required right now?
The sphere. Have you considered it? Have you endeavored towards it?
We're trying to build a talisman, but things are going to be more difficult until we know where the sphere is and what's guarding it. They're not going to be leaving it out in the open.
Obtaining this information, how?
Right now, I need to be a little bit more powerful because whatever's between me and that sphere is much more strong than I am.
No action until then?
Let's say it's on the back burner, shall we?
Do not let it burn too long.
And silence after that. Sorry, somebody's moving something out in the hallway and I got distracted for a second.
I thought your camera was shaking like you were giving a glitch effect.
I'm not that good. The production value hasn't taken that high. Not yet, at least.
Next season, baby, on Casters and Castles.
We're going to have all the bells and all the whistles. All right. Alexander's working on the dueling tournament. Have you decided on a format for that?
Yeah, it should be just relatively simple. Of just you get this pool of players, you seed them into your standard bracket.
How's seeding going to work?
Randomized, but if any 6th year students sign up, they will be paired off with each other first. 5th years to 5th years. If there's an unfortunate drawing of a matchup that someone has a bit of a problem with from the codex, then maybe some stuff would be done there, but that's not the intention. Generally, it's intended for it to be randomized. And then best of ones, they probably, because people cast their spells, right? They need to be the next day. So it'll be like, each round is a day.
Okay. And the number of rounds will depend on total signups, single elimination.
Yep. Single elimination.
Oh, but the comeback, the losers
Man,
bracket.
The salty run
if
back.
only we had some people with experience in some kind of competitive tournament to help us design this kind of thing.
Oh yeah, by no means is this going to be a well-formatted tournament for the first time of 50-year-olds designing a tournament.
This is roleplay. This is roleplay.
Literally a Smash tournament. It's like for
Yeah.
kids.
There's a lot of people
Right, we're
complaining.
gonna
It's
do,
like,
gonna do
oh,
a double Swiss to begin with.
no.
Round robin
Nothing like
group
that.
stage. We'll never make it out of groups.
What I need, Alex's league play, and I need it now.
And a dueling lol.
True.
And then the Construct Coliseum, working on the paperwork for that. Is there anything else that Alexander is working on in terms of the Codex?
That would be probably, even if there was, it's probably all that Alex could juggle right now with classes
Okay.
and everything else. So let's call it there at that.
Trying to keep everything together all at the same time. Okay.
Mhm.
What about social life? Dorina is still often interested in non-curriculars. Let's go explore this park together. Let's go on a walk over here. Let's go climb this thing over here.
Yeah, it's probably
Disregard women, acquire codex.
pretty much, not intentionally. Alex would like feel bad and probably like not know how to prioritize his time, but he would just like make excuses a lot of why he can't do things with
Get
Dorina.
ghosted.
Yeah, probably ghost her sometimes just because he doesn't know how to like handle everything, because it's a lot of coursework plus doing everything else. He's definitely not being the best of potential romantic interests right now.
The best of whatevers.
Yeah, the best of whatevers. For
Charisma
sure.
save, roll for breakup.
Dorina will remember that.
Yeah, 'cause he might do like one or two things, but then like as because like during the like syllabus week, he probably would have time to like do one or two things, but after that, like
As
probably
things get more
probably nothing.
intense,
Yeah.
right? Mm. All right, Athalor. He is taking his coursework extremely seriously, focusing on that quite a bit. Is Athalor doing any other extracurriculars? What else is he spending his time on?
I think now and then, I imagine that they don't meet often, given it's just the start of a year, but Athalor is doing his extracurricular drama activities. Going through the old classics, the compositions that have survived from Luminius, or at least are claimed to have survived from Luminius by potentially some dubious poets and playwrights.
So one of the interesting things about drama is because Ioth Academy is so multicultural, there are a lot of different traditions to draw on. Like Dragon Tribe Theater, one, it varies from tribe to tribe, and two, it's entirely different from the Alfar form. Alfar plays tend to be rhyming, poetic, and long as hell. Because when you only need 4 hours of trance a day and your lifespan is measured in centuries, you think nothing of going to an 8-hour play.
Yeah, like that's a blip in life.
Yeah, but most mortals are not really going to be looking to do that. So you've got all these different cultures mixing together. And then like the Stone Abbey, they tend to be morality plays. The Dune Writers have these romantic ballads. They tend to break into song during their show, like during their stage performances. Lots and lots of different forms. So making a drama club with a limited student body that has a lot of different traditions to draw upon, half the time what they're doing is just trying to figure out what you can't just do Shakespeare, right? It's not like the default. You can't just default to Shakespeare because there is no default. So half of what the drama club has to do is just figure out, okay, what's something that we can all do together? What's something that would make sense for us all to do together, so on and so forth. Is Athalor pushing for the Alfar classics? Because all the stuff about Luminius it's like almost all Alfar stuff.
I think Athalor would be fine to run some of his monologue stuff by himself. Like he can get by with just like having his own little recitals to himself when
Well-
Alex is off doing other things. He's got the dorm room to himself.
I'll
Like if
also
it was
say,
another alpha, they might do like a Duolingo.
yeah, if you wanted to do a scene or a monologue, that's different from trying to put on the entire 3-part, 8 hours apart,
Yeah. I don't
romantic
think
epic.
Athalor would push for public performances of the alpha stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but he would be keen to like try and find uh a, either like time to like do a monologue or to like run a dialogue kind of scene, just like
Mm-hmm.
off scenes here and there, just stuff that reminds him of home.
Okay, roll a performance check.
Bam! I have an inspiration as well. Let's nail this bitch.
Let's go.
I in fact did nail this bitch.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Heckin'. All right. Athalor begins to garner attention in the art world for his portrayals of these great Alfar tragedies. And I mean, all elven works are tragedies, but some of the tragedies are also comedies. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They don't really tend. They like their It's like cuisine that tends to blend the sweet and the savory.
I mean, when you've got 8 hours, like
you can go through the whole range of emotions.
You've got some time to work it out, you know?
Mm-hmm. And having already established a bit of a name for himself with his performance at the Green Gala last year, Athalor's dramatic contributions are definitely making an impact. I'm going to have to develop a theater of some kind, like a really cool theater. Note to self, develop a really cool theater.
Yeah, just take all the electives, guys. Give gnomes more and more. This all started from Athalor knowing one dance.
Speaking of which, Darina and Renobi are both doing dance as extracurricular.
Oh, like a bitch. He's like
Yep.
so ghosting me.
Ooh.
I think he's just all into this codex stuff. I really don't get it. What do they have that I don't?
Sorry, who? Who are you talking about?
God, Alex.
And Garnet, I know she's super focused on her academics. I know that she's doing her after hours stuff. It doesn't sound like she's forming a direct plan to kill Inril. More like it'll happen over time, right?
It's probably just thinking about the perfect moment because she's thinking about how can she kind of bait him out of a situation where he's alone. They can't tie this back to Garnet. They can't tie it back to her friends, and it's just gonna be him, no one harm. Like I think she's pondering over a lot of factors and kind of thinking about like the perfect crime, just of like no evidence. Where can we meet? What excuse would I use? Not just because she's treating it a different way of not just running up to his office all like spur of the moment because she saw how uncalculated and how messy that was and how many consequences there were. So she's taking a lot more precautions and planning it out properly.
Okay.
Just my ideas though.
And is she participating in any extracurriculars right now?
What would be like options, I guess?
Oh, I
Or
posted
what's going
some
on?
in Discord. Let me look back at what I
Oh.
said last time. No, there's
Wanna
no
go
homework.
swim
There's no
club?
real life homework for this D&D campaign. You're not expected to keep track of everything. That's
Oh.
why I can look it up.
Okay.
Drama, performing arts, summoner's chess, dance, various crafts, probably a debate club.
She would set me up a debate.
True.
That sounds fun.
Ioth
Probably-
isn't real.
And here's the evidence is why.
That's I will lay out.
She probably is the what'd you say, like sorcerer's chest? Is that like pillars or something different?
Summoner's
related, or-
chess
Summoner's
is
chest.
yeah, you
Please.
summon creatures and they battle on a game board
Yu-Gi-Oh!
for control of squares on the game board.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh my
Nah,
god.
It's TFT.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, you're right. Mm, Damn.
A summoner has disconnected.
Oh, me is like really me as me thinks that's really cool. But I think Garnet would probably go to the debate or maybe start learning the summoner's chest. She probably wouldn't sign up without knowing how to play it first.
Right.
I'm not
So,
going in until I can win.
Debate club.
All right. And what about her social life? What's that like these days?
Probably still has her friend circle, but is mingling more with the academics these days, and not as much of the just popular kids. She's like now a little bit more into getting friends who are good at studying and can help her out with the classes, and people who are driven in that way too.
Okay. Nice. Sventisco is starting a student newspaper with a focus not just on what's going on at the school, but what's going on in the outside world as well. She and her group of friends, the Kizjan, the ones who wear the copper bracelets and the blue sashes, all seem to be involved in this project. They haven't really talked to you much since the incident down in the Undercroft. From my best impressions, it seems like the lot of you are also focused on your own academics and projects and don't really have any reason to specifically address that, right? Garnet, did you get everything that you were trying to press Sventisco for back then?
I think, yeah, because we got the list of tools, we got the list of spells and barriers. I think she'd probably be like, if there was a chance that they were in the same lunchroom, or if she was studying somewhere, like, I think Garnet would want to talk to Sventisco about her goals and stuff, and kind of starting to think more about her, like Sventisco's criticism of Ioth Academy, and ask her about that.
Okay. Give me
Has she come to
give me a
ask more as
persuasion
well?
check.
Persuasion.
Okay, a 14. What more do you want to know? Sventisco's take is that the sovereigns are not saving us. The wizards, Ioth, isn't saving us. Everyone, the dragon tribes are out there on their own. The priest kingdoms are out there doing whatever they think is necessary to protect themselves. The Infernals are running rampant. Ioth has, specifically him, but also the entire faculty, has the ability to just go out there and lay waste. If they put their efforts together, they could probably turn the designer city, for example, into a smoldering crater. Not that she's suggesting that's the most practical way to fix things, but they have all that power that they could do on that scale, but they're just focusing on training mages and staying safe. And that seems morally wrong when countless people are born to be sacrificed on the altars to the destroyer, for example. And these wizards could stop it.
So Garnet probably sees this like as like a debate club practice of like kind of, oh, Sventisco, I'm in the debate club, so this is a good like little practice. You have some very strong ideals, very strong goals, and you say you don't like what Ioth Academy is doing, so debate it. What do you not like about Ioth Academy? And she's kind of more center focused on what is Ioth Academy not doing, what could they do, kind of thing.
Okay. Insight, please.
Frick.
Is this in
I had
the
a lucky.
vessel so we could spectate?
Oh wait, do I have a disadvantage or do
You have an Athalor, do you want to be in the area for this conversation?
Vaguely. Athalor just wants to listen in.
Yeah, you can listen in. That's all right. Alexander's also welcome to listen in. You have a disadvantage on this, and you have an inspiration in the tank.
Okay. So can I cancel them out and use
Yeah,
luck, or is that just too many?
Yes, you could cancel them out and use luck.
Okay. I have done that. 14.
Okay. There's a moment of hesitation on Sventisco's part, as if an answer immediately jumped to the front of her mind, but she didn't want to use it. Instead, she takes a moment to come up with a different answer. And she starts out by saying, well, the wizards of the Tower of War could intervene, not just to stop Ravener bands when they're on the attack, The Tower of War intervened when the Ravner band attacked the refugee settlement around Ioth Academy. But there are other settlements out there for the Hill Folk and the Chaparral and the Dune Riders that get attacked by Raveners and Iron Butchers, and the Wizards of the Academy have the divination magic to see these attacks, the teleportation magic to arrive on the scene of these attacks, and save survivors or lay waste to the attackers. Think of how many people have been killed, how many families have been torn apart. That didn't have to happen.
Don't you think they just don't want to save them and they're too focused on themselves? Or have you already realized that?
No, exactly. That's the problem. That's the crux of the problem.
Well, if you can't force them to help, then what?
Can't we?
How
Can't
invincible
force-
do you believe Ioth is?
Is Athalor?
Yeah, he just sort of like pokes around the back of Garnet.
Ah,
Francisco looks at him oddly. Well, I mean, half of that is just information. I don't know how invincible I think he is, but I intend to find out.
Sorry, Garnet, I didn't mean to interrupt. Do debate on.
oh, no, there's no need to debate. I think Sventisco and I are on the same page about all this. Just might have different solutions. I
And
don't.
perhaps I should play devil's advocate. If you don't know how invincible Ioth is, do you think that maybe the faculty here decide not to intercede in these things directly as to not draw more direct ire to the academy?
That's a selfish strategy. Self-preservation in the face of infinite suffering when you have all of this power. Yes, obviously you're safer if you don't do anything, but does that make it right?
Yeah, but it's self-preservation to garner power onto those who can make a decision to do something like you are.
Sorry, run that by me again.
Well, they're preserving themselves, but it's with a nobler purpose. Like, if they hadn't preserved themselves and this academy was destroyed, someone like you would get here and would not get to go here, have very little power, and then what could you do? They equip people to go out into the world and to sustain these cultures that can avoid infernal influence.
They're prolonging the suffering. All that that's done so far in the last hundreds of years of their existence has been to scatter some magical knowledge. It hasn't shifted the balance of power in a major way. It's never been
So
a
it'd be
single
better to
constant.
leave that magical knowledge at a small amount for so many of these cultures. How would they resist the Infernals then?
Through the will and power of the dragons who have been with us since the very beginning, through the gods that keep an eye on the priest kingdoms.
I think that it might be better to have actors like yourself have some power and then be able to decide what to do with it.
I think it's still wrong that those who already have a lot of power aren't using it to intervene in the suffering of others.
Perhaps you're right in that way, but we don't know how vulnerable people are, and I think that it's a nobler purpose to be able to give everyone this magical power and make sure that it doesn't fade from this world.
Roll persuasion and insight. And is Athalor being heartfelt right now?
Yes.
All right.
Athalor is much for the democratization of magic. You say persuasion and insight.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Might as well use an advantage on persuasion because I'm pretty sure I've got 2.
And you've got a disadvantage as well.
All right. Let's even out the persuasion. We'll burn both of those, and then we'll just get regular insight as well. Ooh, 1s across the board, baby.
11 and 11. If Ioth is as old as they say he is, then he knows secrets from the very beginning. Secrets that I'm sure could change the world and stop the Infernals.
Then let's hope he does.
A whole lot of change going on already. Hold on to your seats, guys. There's so much change.
Francisco gives you the side eye. And we've just about run out of time for the night. So I'm going to end us with a change in the weather as this conversation continues, as an enormous storm passes over the academy, hovering in place. And those who are paying very close attention can see a delegation of flying armored knights.
They heard me.
The causeway, the marble structure that provides a gate through the golden sphere, floats up through the academy towards the very top as the Knights of Terra Nimbus enter the school. And we'll continue this story and see what consequences lie ahead next time on Book of Dawn, Ioth Academy.